Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm good, sir. My voice is clear, sir.
हाँ जी, हाँ जी.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hi, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you.
ये ज्योति मैम की तरफ से आया है. हाय.
Hi, good morning, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jyoti ma'am. After long time.
Yes, sir.
कैसे हैं आप?
मैं बिल्कुल ठीक है सर, आप कैसे हैं?
बस बढ़िया मैम, ऑल गुड.
Pushpendra sir, we are just waiting for the participant. As soon as the enough number of the participant joins, we will start.
Okay. Actually, ma'am, I have prepared the presentation on one online platform where every participant need to join. So the link is this. Okay.
You may share the link in the chat box.
Yeah, I have shared in the chat board, chat box, so everybody should join there. And after a few minutes, there'll be some 1 or 2 MCQs kind of thing. And it will be very context bound. So participants need to be active throughout the session.
Okay, sir. Yes, all the participants. There is a one link shared in the chat box. Please join through that link also. Yes, Pushpendra sir, let's start the session now.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
So, very warm welcome to all of you. We are going to begin with our day number 5 and we are going to commence session number 9. So this today's session that is on the base of one of the most essential pillars of the modern cybersecurity, that is a vulnerability management. So when we talk about the era where digital systems are continuously targeting and exploited, the ability to identify, evaluate, prioritize these kind of the vulnerabilities is a fundamental to building the cyber defenses. So this session is going to offer you in-depth exploration of the life cycle of vulnerability management, industry best practices, and the framework that organizations employ to strengthen their security posture. So to guide us through the critical and the highly relevant topic, we are honored to welcome our academician and researcher, Mr. Pushpendra Kumar Pateriya. So Mr. Pateriya is a head of system programming domain at School of Computer Science and Engineering. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering from SGS ITS Indore and MTech from NIT Allahabad and is currently pursuing his PhD program. So his academic career spans more than 15 years and marked by excellence in teaching, research and innovation. He's a multiple time GATE qualifier, securing a remarkable All India rank of 568 and holding the UGC NET qualification. His academic depth and commitment is definitely remarkable. So his research output is equally impressive with the over 39 Scopus Index publications covering a wide spectrum of contemporary topics in the computer science. In the field of innovation, he has 2 published patents, energy harvesting shoes and smart mirror using Raspberry Pi, reflecting his dedication to the developing practical technology-driven solutions. So we are going to start with the session on the topic of vulnerability management. We are indeed privileged to have him with us today. So with this, I invite Mr. Pushpendra Pateriya to take over and deliver today's session on the vulnerability management. Sir, session is yours now. I have provided you the rights also.
Yes, ma'am. I think I am having the rights. Thank you so very much for the wonderful introduction of mine. First of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. Pratik Agrawal and Dr. Vishu, and the management of SGT University for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I am truly privileged and honored to be the part of this prestigious ATAL FDP program, right? So guys, I have shared one link. I hope everybody is active, because when these programs or any such FDP or training program we conduct online, it is challenging to track the users. So I have used one of the platform and I am expecting that everybody join through it. So it will be easy to interact, right? So I hope there are 17, 18 members have joined. The rest of the people quickly join. Let me share my screen also. Okay. So there are so many options. After Corona, I'm using Zoom now. Okay. So when I share, it will be shared full screen, right? I hope it is okay. So Vishwam, can you confirm?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
When
Yes,
I'm
yes, it is visible, sir.
when I'm switching the tab and everything is visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Full screen is visible, right? Okay, great. Fine. So actually, there are 2-3 mode in which I'll conduct the session. I'll deliver the things, then we will follow some of the videos also. Then there'll be some questions, 1 question, 2 question based on the content, and the participants will answer, and then we will continue the discussion further, right? Now in this particular session, which is going to be somewhere around 1 hour and 30 minutes, we will try to cover up the important aspect of vulnerability management. Okay. So vulnerabilities, most of the people must be aware about. So let's just start with the very fundamental, like some prominent keywords in this particular domain. You can say cyber security. Vulnerability is one of the very important terms, because if your system is vulnerable, then the attackers can exploit it, right? So let's just make yourself a little comfortable with basic terms, and then we jump onto the actual things. So in a nutshell, what is happening nowadays? Internet is growing at a very fast rate, right? And there are various types of softwares we are using. Different types of applications are there. And the variety of peoples are also, like, very illiterate kind of peoples are also using internet, to a very highly skilled person, and technical guys are also using internet, right? So the problem here is, because it is very heterogeneous kind of system, there are variety of you can say the users are available, as well as resources are available. So when I am building the software, or you are trying to build the software, I cannot build the software from scratch. I am bound to use some of the libraries, or some tools, or some open source software, or some frameworks, or because if I'm building a good, usable, or large software, it requires a number of things. The problem here is, when I'm using a number of things, actually I am not exactly aware about how those things are working in background. So there may be vulnerabilities, right? So let me start this where you people are already joined. So let me start this session. There, what is happening? Okay, so I can minimize this, and just a moment. Okay, so I can scroll up. Okay, so let's just start with the very fundamental thing. I think my screen is visible to everyone, right?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Fine. So let's quickly try to understand what is the vulnerability. Vulnerability we consider as a kind of weakness in a system, or application, or network, that can be exploited by threats to gain unauthorized access to cause harm to the system. Okay. There's another important term like exploit. So we usually say vulnerabilities can be exploited. So what is an exploit? Is a method or a script or a block of code that can be used, or any tool also, that attacker can use to take the advantage of a vulnerability which is already existing in our system, right? Now there is a term patch. So when there is a vulnerability, actually we can build the patch and we can patch it. So what is actually the patch? It the process of applying updates and fixes of software and system to remediate known vulnerabilities. So there are different types of vulnerabilities available. There are varieties of vulnerabilities available. Somewhere around 2 lakhs or more than 2 lakhs vulnerabilities are already reported. And the well-registered database we will follow in this session. What are the vulnerabilities available? So this vulnerability management is not a small task. It is a very, very, very huge task, very difficult task to manage it. So once we will end up by this session, you will get to know that how it is very much challenging task, right? So patches also, I think you people are aware about. I'm just going through. There is one very famous term is 0-day vulnerability. So what is the 0-day vulnerability? It is also a kind of vulnerability, only a flaw that is unknown to vendors itself. So let's say I am building a product, maybe a mobile or any software or something. I am unaware about the vulnerability. So as I am launching my product, there is a vulnerability. That vulnerability is considered as the 0-day vulnerability. And because I am not aware about, so I don't work for the patch of that. And attacker can exploit it. So immediately when any launch is there, this is the task of these attackers. They try to exploit the 0-day vulnerability, right? Now risk assessment, it is one of the important term in vulnerability management. The process of evaluating the potential impact and likelihood of vulnerabilities being exploited or prioritize remediation, right? So what is the risk assessment when there is a vulnerability in the system? In case any attacker exploit it, then what is the risk? What type of resources or assets will be accessed? What type of, you can say, the things can be updated? What kind of authorization or authentication permissions can be updated? And what kind of effects will be there? So that risk, we can prioritize the vulnerability based on that. Then there's one more important term, asset inventory. So I think inventory we do understand in the real world. We do manage the inventory. Inventory means whatever we are having, whatever the number of resources, if I am willing to manage them, if I am the manager, I should list out them. I should have the detail of them, and I should be aware about the features of those resources or assets. Then only I'll be able to manage it. But as I have already mentioned that when I'm building a software, that software may be using, maybe having cloud integration, maybe using some open source modules, maybe using some let's say proprietary software like Windows or something. So it is also a very difficult thing to maintain the asset inventory, right? So there has to be a requirement of the tool, or some automation will be required, right? So what is asset? Actually the complete list of hardware, software, whatever is involved in the system as a whole, all those things considered as an asset. And then we have to identify all those things. Then only we will be able to find out potential vulnerability in the system, right? Now there is very common term, CVE, common vulnerabilities and exposures. So this is a kind of collective efforts. The cyber security experts or some government or some private organizations, they made. And this collective efforts, like whenever any software or any applications, let's say I am facing some difficulty in my system, then if I report that vulnerability, then it may be available in public domain so that other may be aware about that. So the CV provides such kind of list, or you can say database, so that throughout the world, everybody can get the idea that in this particular software or module, such kind of flaw has been reported. We will discuss all these things. So it is a public catalog to know cybersecurity vulnerabilities, each assigned a unique identifier for tracking. Okay, those who have not joined this, the link is there. Please join, because MCQs will also come and you have to attempt them, right? Now there is CVSS, Common Vulnerability Scoring System. So what is actually the scoring? Like we use in academics, based on some parameter, we rate or we give some marks. Like, so this CVSS scoring system also rate a vulnerability or score a vulnerability from 1 to 10, or you can say 0 to 10, right? So on the scale of 0 to 10, based on different parameters, CVSS we will discuss in detail later. So how it works, right? So if you want to see, like I have, there are different versions of CVSS that we manage, that later on we will discuss, right? So just a moment. For now, just focus on the key terms. Then later on, I will elaborate everything in detail. Now, there's one thing very common in research also, like false positive. So what is the false positive? A vulnerability reported by a scanner. Let's say you are doing it manually or maybe automatically by using any tool. So if a scanner is like reporting a vulnerability that does not actually exist, so that considered as a false positive, right? And if you detect a vulnerability which does not exist, then you may start taking the measures to patch that, and unnecessary effort will be there, or you may do some of the unnecessary changes inside your software. So that is not required, right? Now, remediations, the act of fixing or mitigating a vulnerability, that we consider as the remediation, right? To reduce the risk, often through patching or configuring the changes, right? Now, what is the mitigation? a temporary measure to reduce the risk. So mitigation, like you are trying to reduce it, but you are not just removing, or you are not patching the thing, right? When a full remediation or patch is not yet available. So if full remediation or patch is not available, then the mitigation is one of the good step to take, right? And then threat intelligence is also one of the key term which we will use in further coming slides. So what is threat intelligence actually? Information about the current and emerging cyber threats. So if I have the threat intelligence, then only I can take the corrective measures to deal with the vulnerability. Okay, so that helps the organization anticipate and defend against the attacks, right? So this is also very much required. That also I will discuss in detail, right? Then attack surface. So what is actually the surface is in the vulnerability management is surface actually generally we in real world consider as a surface which we can touch upon, right? In cyber you consider surface as where user can interact. So user can interact with n number of things like through softwares or through, let's say, CLI is there. If there is a cloud integration or API is there, or n number of things are there, right? So all those things comprises like a surface. Okay. So attacker may attack by using attack surface the total number of possible entry points actually where an attacker could exploit vulnerabilities in a system, right? So attack surface is very wide nowadays, right? Then penetration testing is a very common term we all know. So a simulated cyber attack performed to identify vulnerabilities and assess the effectiveness of the security defense. So this is generally we use like to safeguard the system also. So we try to penetrate inside the system by using some tools, and then we try to patch those vulnerabilities if there is any, and there will be obviously many vulnerabilities available in every system, right? Now what is vulnerability is scanning. So generally we do this process automatically. There are many tools available. We will discuss related tools detail in the next session, right? So this automated process to identify known vulnerabilities, this is scanning actually. In CV, there are some publicly known vulnerabilities available. There is a database. There are multiple organizations, they manage the database. So whenever any organization is facing any issue and there is a vulnerability noticed, then it is getting reported. There is a way, so we will discuss how the vulnerabilities can be reported and how it will be available in the CV or public kind of database, right? So once it is available, then these tools, those are having auto scanning kind of thing. They try to refer that and they scan the softwares and applications, and based on the available knowledge in the public domain databases, they scan it and report the vulnerability in the system, right? So this is an automated process to identify known vulnerabilities in systems, applications, and network using the specialized tools that we will discuss in next session, right? Now, how to manage a risk, right? So when I was preparing the system, I took some of the help, like I prepare the content and try to take the help of AI and try to make it more interactive. So please try to understand what is the managing system risk and what types of risk are there and how large the problem is, right? So, so let's try to tune up this. What is actually the systematic risk, right? Uh, can anybody confirm the voice is coming or not?
It is
Everyone
audible,
quickly.
sir.
Okay, so please go through.
Excuse me, sir. Is this video having any playback back audio?
Yes, it is having. Audio is not there?
Because we are not able to. I guess I'm not able to listen the audio. Anybody else?
No, audio is not there.
Okay, let
Audio
me
is not
elaborate then. Okay. I think if you join that, the audio will be there. Let me elaborate. Audio is there. I think through my system, audio is not is there. So what is actually
No.
it is let's audio is not coming. No audio.
Yes, it's audible now.
Just wait on. Now it's audible.
Yes, sir.
It's audible. Okay.
Yes, sir. Pushpendra sir, it is audible now.
Okay. Just so let's start. So in this video, actually, they are mentioning the data from 2022. Okay. So till 2022 in the public domain, there are more than 1,90,000 around vulnerabilities reported. But currently in the 2025, it is more than 2 lakhs or 2 lakhs or above, right? These are the publicly known vulnerabilities those people or organizations are reporting. But actual vulnerabilities, those are being exploited by the attackers. They are not in the public domain. So this is just kind of bare minimum figure which we are having. Now what they are saying is out of the known vulnerabilities, when we are trying to deal with it, so the percentage of organizations, so every organizations like 60% or more than 60% organizations, they are having more than 1 lakh backlogs in dealing with the vulnerabilities. So vulnerability like I am having a flaw in my system, although I am aware about, but I am not able to deal with it. I am not able to build the patch, right? So that is vulnerability backlog. So 60 to 65% organizations, they are having backlog in terms of more than 1 lakh vulnerabilities. And they are able to patch at max or less than 50% vulnerabilities, right? As this data is saying, right? So this is a very important figure. Whatever the number of vulnerabilities has been reported till date, the attackers, they have exploited only less than 1% of the vulnerabilities. So the meaning is whatever these public databases are having the detail about the vulnerabilities, whatever the scanning tools we are having, they are reporting the same vulnerabilities. Those are in the public domain. But attackers are not using most of them. Less than 1% of those publicly available vulnerabilities are getting exploited, right? So the risk is bigger. How? Because we are trying to patch, or organizations are working to patch the vulnerabilities, and they are huge in numbers, but attackers are not focusing on them. They are looking for some other ways to exploit, to enter inside the system, to get the unauthorized access of the system, right? So what exactly they are saying this in the old way and traditional way, when we were trying to, or organizations were trying to deal with the vulnerabilities, they were looking for the all the vulnerabilities those are available in the public domain and trying to patch them, write the code so that the vulnerabilities can be resolved from the system. They were releasing the software. But because vulnerabilities are growing exponentially, and most of the vulnerabilities are never going to be exploited actually by the attacker, so it is very necessary to prioritize the vulnerabilities and try to deal with according to the priority and the severity of the vulnerability. So in the modern way, which they are mentioning here, we are not targeting the all, like in this diagram you can see that we are filtering out the vulnerability those are available in the public domain, and few of them on priority basis we are trying to deal, right? So I hope the idea is clear. Actually, World Economic Forum is the beginning. They have mentioned that the overall, the GDP, or you can say, or the overall economy, the global economy, the software contribution is more than 60%. So it is huge. Like in developed country, most of the things they are automated. So maybe the even the gas is automated, water is automated, electricity is automatically getting controlled. Everything is dependent on the software. So in such scenario, when there is so huge dependency, the world is dependent on the software. If softwares are having vulnerabilities, and if attacker can exploit them, the human beings are at great risk, right? So this is very much required to deal with it. Vulnerability management is a very necessary thing. We are in India, and India is not that dependent or on automation, but slowly, gradually, we are doing it. Regularly, we are doing a number of transactions using UPI or a number of ways. Many of us don't visit the bank nowadays. Everything is online now. So our money is just transferring in digital form, right? And bank is also using the software. They may be using some open source module or a number of things. So if vulnerability management is not there, then although we are not feeling, but we are at risk, right? So now let's answer a few questions. So I think these questions are visible to all the participants. Now everybody can answer, those who are connected on the platform. So once you answer, I can see them. Those who are connected on the platform, they can answer, I think. Okay. Time up. So no one has answered. I think no one is active in that way. Okay. So as I have already mentioned, that World Economic Forum report, which was published in 2022, they mentioned that the global GDP dependent on the digital technologies over 60%. That means more than 60% is dependent on that, right? So this is huge. Now it is grown somewhere around 65%. Okay, but data is not available. Now let's answer the next one. So just forget about this report. You just focus on what is the significant challenge organizations face with their vulnerability backlogs. So in this video itself, we have mentioned every organization is having vulnerability backlog. Okay, 5 has answered. Now 5 are active. Very good. Okay. So Dr. Satnam Kaur, Charvi, Ankita. Okay, okay. So they have answered correctly, right? Now, based on this report, what is the significant challenge an organization faces? So the significant challenge is the large majority have immense backlog and struggle to remediate even half of them. So the data was mentioned, like, so most of the organization, they have more than 1 lakh vulnerabilities backlog, right? And half of them, or maximum half of them, they are able to deal with, right? So this is very serious issue, right? Now what is asset management? If we want to deal with the vulnerabilities, then we need to manage our asset, right? Or you can say asset inventory we have to manage. So as I already told you, if I don't know that what I am going to protect, then I cannot protect it, right? I hope I'm making the word very clear. So if you don't know, like in my system, what need to be protected, what is important, how attacker can get the benefit of it, then anyways, I'm not going to protect my system. So I need to assess my system. I need to maintain a list kind of thing, or you can say inventory for all the assets, maybe software or hardware or any application or whatever is there. And then I need to deep down into it. And then only I will be able to manage my the vulnerability, right? So let's look at the next video. I hope this is audible. This is audible, guys, everyone.
No, sir, it is not audible on the same browser.
Now it is audible. It's audible now.
No, sir. No, it's audible on the other screen of the Wayground, but it is not audible here. So the session is recorded as a mute session for the particular duration when the video is playing.
Okay. Okay, fine. Okay. So let me elaborate. Okay, fine. Okay, guys. So what exactly is happening? I'll elaborate in this. So what is exactly the assets management is? We need to list out our assets, those we are going to manage, right? Now in cyber security, there are varieties of assets as it is visible in this diagram, right? So there are databases, there are mobiles, there are computers, there are other devices, routers, or a number of other things. There may be hardwares also, and we are going to protect all of them. So this is going to be a difficult and challenging task. This is going to be a difficult and challenging task, right? Now, how we are going to manage it? So just keep following. So what is actually they are talking about? Unknowns means if I am not aware about what I am trying to protect, actually, that is the unknown things. So such unknown assets are actually making my system vulnerable because I am not at all thinking about what type of vulnerabilities those are having and how those things can be utilized to destroy my system, right? So unknown of unknowns, like unknown unknowns, you please try to understand. So there's a list of such kind of resources, maybe softwares or hardwares or something, which my team as a vulnerability management team is not looking for, and that is a very crucial aspect that I need to look into it. So poor visibility is always a risk. So in real world also, and in digital, like when we are going to manage our system, if our visibility is poor, that means we are not able to assess our actual resources which we are going to protect. That means we are at a great risk, right? So such kind of unknown things, unknown assets can be targeted, okay? And the attacker can exploit them, and malwares and other things can be penetrated in the system, right? Now, so there is very necessary thing that we need to create our digital map. Digital map means like in real world we have maps. So there are locations or destinations or there are different places. We know that what is the distance and how we need to travel those particular map, right? Similarly, in vulnerability management, we need to have digital map. So what is the digital map in terms of assets? We need to list out and we need to manage the inventory about each and every asset, the property of that asset, and how that asset can be utilized by the attacker. That I need to list out. Okay. Even your vulnerability management program will also be the part. If any software, any tool, whatever we are using, that is a kind of asset that may also be vulnerable, right? So we need to manage our complete thorough digital map. So if we try to manage our digital map or the assets, we have, like traditionally we were managing in these spreadsheets manually. So we list out the things and then write the things, what are the things, let's say there is an application, how people can interact that. So if I am having, let's say, this pen, or maybe I am having this bottle, or maybe I am having this phone, then I need to list out the properties, how the interaction is possible, how human can interact it, what are the, you can say, interaction point or communication point that having the nature, everything we are listing out. But it was maybe okay in the very 20, 30 years back. But now the variety of the assets, the nature of the assets, it's huge. And every day, like, n number of applications are popping up, and open source community is building a number of things. The other companies, they are building a number of things. So this is almost impossible to manage this, all this assessment. The assets you cannot manage in a spreadsheet. We need to use the automated tools. That's for sure, right? So if we are moving towards the automation, then the video is saying if it can be automated, then it is easy to manage. Like, why the companies are struggling not to fix these the vulnerabilities and not able to do it, if it can be done, if automation is possible. The thing is, again, the same thing which I was mentioning, that the variety of assets, they are varying in nature, the variety of users, they are varying in nature, the technology is changing, the environment is changing. So it is very, very challenging thing when the teams are planning to deal with the vulnerabilities in one of the way. Within a month, the things are getting changed, right? So it is like a kind of maze or mesh. So it is really very challenging to manage with the vulnerabilities. So generally, when we deal with it, if any assets, like if we consider there is a, let's say, set of assets, then usually they are dividing, like maybe 20% cloud assets may be there, then software libraries 20%. So it is a rough estimate that they are taking. Mobile devices maybe 20%, on-premise servers maybe 20%, IoT devices. So on-premise means, like, I'm having an organization, and inside my organization there are so many servers and the devices are available. So it may not be exactly 20-20-20 kind of thing, but there are varieties of assets available, right? So I guess container everybody nowadays familiar with. So virtual machines are there, containers are there. Containers, can you can pull the container image, and that container, maybe you can destroy the container also, right? So this is also going to be very challenging thing. If an asset or maybe a software or maybe a machine, if it is doing something and eventually it is going like vanished, then the tracking and all these things are getting very, very challenging in the environment, right? Although this is going to be very challenging, the asset management, but there are tools available, and the steps like we need to follow, we need to make a clear plan, then it is possible to do it, because assets are getting added and they are having variety of natures. But then also we can classify them in some number of the classes, like the cloud related assets or hardware related, software related, and then we can plan it accordingly, right? So it is possible to do it, but it is very, very difficult, right? So the very first step in the plan is like we automate the thing. So establish scalable automated tools and processes, because asset discovery is also very challenging. If we do manually, it is not possible to get all type of assets, right? So we have to use tool. Then second is once we get it, then ownership. So designate the clear asset managers for the accountability. So later on we will discuss like how the human they play the role in this. The ownership is very, very important when we are making a plan. Let's say I want to manage my house, then if I know that there are chances, there are some weak points or vulnerabilities, if the attacker can exploit them, then I need to make a very clear plan. And if I am going to manage a one particular door or some window, then there has to be a ownership or responsibility, right? So if I am going to run a patch or the update of one of the thing, for which type of asset I am dealing with it, that is my responsibility. The ownership is very, very important step. Otherwise, everything will be mess, right? Then the third step is review. So even though like we automate and get the asset discovery and we have the list of it, and then we set the ownership and responsibility, that is fine. But then also we have to review it is continuously, right? So regularly review is very, very much required, and update asset inventories, because a number of things will keep on coming and adding into your asset list. So it is not like it is not a one time job that I'm having this laptop and okay, I have scanned my asset today and it's done. No, it's not done, because I am using n number of softwares, and those software are getting updated, and n number of things or n number of libraries or frameworks are coming up, and that I'm unknowingly I'm using it. So I need to regularly review those that particular asset list. And then the procedures. So then we have to develop the SOPs, how to follow that. Okay, for the adding or removing the assets. So any asset when we are adding into the system, there has to be a procedure. And if we are removing an asset from the system, there has to be a procedure. So you try to consider like this. Let's say I'm managing a server, right? And in that server, let's say I'm having Linux or maybe Ubuntu. So I'm using, let's say, 20.04 kind of Ubuntu, right? Now I'm doing it 20.04 when I'm scanning and discovering the assets. There may be a number of things, a number of modules, or when I try to scan even the vulnerability, there will be a number of things. So if I got to know that, okay, there is a newer version available for the Ubuntu, right? Earlier, my asset list is based on some X version. Now the Y version is available. So if I'm switching it, because I need to manage a complete loop in my vulnerability management, so there has to be a standard procedure that I have to follow. Otherwise, I will make the changes and the rest of the team will not be aware about, because there is ownership about the modules. Because we are talking about the very large and huge systems like Google, Microsoft, or a number of things, right? So that is going to be very, very challenging in this case.
जी हाँ जी
Hello. Anybody saying anything? So this asset management actually need to be aligned with the organizational objectives and focus, right? So whatever the blueprint or the digital maps we are managing, that need to be aligned with the organizational objectives, right? What exactly the prime focus of the organization, what I am going to manage, because all the vulnerabilities in a single go I cannot deal with. So anyways, I am going to prioritize the things. So when it comes to the prioritize, I need to focus on the objectives or alignment of my organization. Okay, so can't protect the secrets. So if right, so the conclusion of this particular video is that if we don't know anything, that can't be protected by us, right? So we need to make such plan or we need to use such tools so that my asset inventory list should be complete. It keep on updating regularly. I should be keep on monitoring asset inventory list every time, right? Then only my plan will be like completed. Then only I will be able to deal with the vulnerabilities which we are focusing on, right? So let's solve few problems on this. So everyone, you can solve. So what is considered as the foundational element of any effective vulnerability management program? So if any effective vulnerability management program is there, right? Then what is the actually the five responses out of 40? Okay. So there are Charvi ma'am, Jagdeep Singh, Dr. Vishnumadan. Okay, so these five participants has given me the correct answer. Dr. Satnam Kaur also. Okay, nice. Now, so the very important thing is asset management, because the crux of the previous video which we were talking about asset management. So if I want to manage the vulnerability, the very important fact is I need to know my all the assets. Okay, then only I will be able to manage my vulnerabilities, right? Now attempt this one also. Okay, this video I have not cited or maybe I have skipped. So there is log4j, log4shell kind of incident. Those who are interested in cybersecurity, I think we all are interested in. You must be aware about this. This vulnerability has been exploited. So this is a very well-known kind of vulnerability exploited, log4shell. So quickly answer, then I will elaborate what actually this vulnerability is, right? So Charvi ma'am, Satnam sir, and Vishu ma'am, all these are available. I mean, they have given me the right answer. Now let's try to understand what is this vulnerability actually. Now we are talking about this actually vulnerabilities. My this screen is also visible, Vishu ma'am.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. So what exactly this vulnerability is? Then this vulnerability was in the Apache server. Okay, it is one of the popular open source Java based logging platform. I think Apache everybody is aware about, right? And this provide the configurable logging levels like trace, debug, info, one. So there are different configuration levels, because when we try to configure a system, there are different settings like up to n number of levels. It depends upon the use. For what purpose I want to set up my Ubuntu, the configuration will change, right? So accordingly, this provide n number of levels of configuration widely used in enterprise applications, cloud services, and consumer softwares also. And this software actually that is having three components: logger, appenders, and layouts. So it captures the messages. Logger like logging. So when anything is happening, it is logging up the messages, storing the information, right? Then appenders like sends logs to files, consoles, and databases. So appenders will append the things in keeping the record, maintaining the database. And layouts like format log. So log need to be formatted, like what event, then event ID, then which date, which time, which user has been. So log we do understand. And so there are different kind of services, you can say, the components they are mentioning there. Now what is actually log4shell? Log4shell is well-known vulnerabilities. It was exploited in 2021. It was reported in 2021, exploited a little earlier maybe, right? So it is available in CVE. It was discovered in November 2021. It is a critical remote code execution, RCE. Remote code execution means, let's say I'm targeting a machine. So I'm scanning that machine, vulnerability scanning tool maybe I'm using, and that I find out there is a vulnerability named as like this. See, this vulnerabilities, that is log4j. This log4shell kind of vulnerability is there. And then I can try the, like you might be aware about, like SQL injections, the type of attack which does not require the physical access of the machine, right? So there are multiple ways. Generally, attackers establish the connection with the remote machine and they try to attack it, right? So this vulnerability falls in that particular category, remote code execution, right? Exploit the Java naming and directory interface. So it exploit JNDI lookups, JNDI, Java naming and directory interfaces. So I hope you may be aware about Active Directory kind of concepts are there when we work on Windows systems. Let's say we try to configure a Windows server, then there is Active Directory and naming kind of concepts. So if we change those naming, then the system will not function properly, right? So that exploit that, and it sends such kind of code like, so let's say jndi.ldap, okay, Active Directory I'm saying. So this is, and then attacker is sending some of the string, maybe the the website link or some script link or some malicious file. Okay, somebody is writing. It is shared with everyone, so you can write also. Okay. I hope I am audible, right? So such kind of code, by using this log4shell, uh, the attacker was sending, and it was very severe. The CVSS score of this vulnerabilities in the database is 10 out of 10. So it was very severe. Then later on, the vulnerabilities has been taken care, affected millions of applications worldwide, like over few days only. Exploited in platforms like AWS, Cloudflare, iCloud, Minecraft, STEM, etc. Attackers used to deploy malwares, steal data, hijack systems. So this was very serious kind of severe vulnerabilities. And then it has been erased, like the Apache dealt with it and then released the patch. So log4j 2.15 plus version, they patch the vulnerabilities and release a new software, right? So that we were talking in that video. So I hope the idea is clear that whenever the vulnerability is in a very well-known software or any other software, ये जो लिखा है, I can erase it, right? Eraser यहाँ से आता, right? Okay, so let me erase this. Fine. Fine. So I think this is clear. Log4j and log4shell, right? We can move on. अभी इसको कैसे करेंगे? Okay. Now let's understand the patch management. So what is actually the patch? I think we have a little less time. So what is actually the patch? Once we know the available assets, right? We need to scan the vulnerabilities, and if there is any vulnerabilities available, then we need to work and build a software, right? And that software which is dealing with that particular vulnerabilities, we consider as the patch management system, right? So let's talk about the patch management. Now in patch management, what happens? There are hidden complexities, so let's try to understand it. In any of the system, there are three important pillars of the system, that is people, process, and technology. So whatever the system we are dealing with, it has been handled by some of the people. There are some automation module like processes, primarily software based processes are there, and there are some technologies, right? Now, in order to deal with this patch management, actually, this says that patch management short to defense means if I find out the vulnerabilities one day and try to work on it manually and try to patch it, then I may find out another vulnerabilities and then try to patch it. In this manual way is very, very difficult thing to do it. So the best way is to automate it. Otherwise, every day finding out the vulnerability is not going to make my system secure, right? So if I want to defend the attack, I need to be very proactive, right? Any vulnerability which is existing in your system, it is like your house door is open for like the unwanted people, right? So we need to know that before sleeping, we check all the doors of our house, whether anything is open or not, right? So that is the responsibility of the people to secure the system. Whatever the things are happening, like what type of exploitation is happening, the attacks are happening. Although there are so many parameters and number of technologies are involved in that, but the prime responsibility, or you can say the attacks are successful because of only human factor, right? Technologies are fine, but humans are not setting or not following the SOPs or standard procedures, which or the guidelines, those are being circulated by the organizations or the software development companies. So let's say if I'm saying, okay, you need to set the 8-digit password, you are setting 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and that is one of the thing, like there is dictionary attack or a number of types of things. So that is very easy to crack it. In that way, like your AWS cannot help you if you are not making yourself like protected, right? So like we're saying, how do most attackers break into a network? So if you think about how do most of the attackers they break into the network is because of the mistake of human, because humans are leaving the vulnerabilities unattended. Humans are not bothering, they are making some silly mistakes even when they are configuring their system, they are not following the standard procedures. So 99% of the attackers are getting successful because of human mistakes, right? Now attackers can do a number of things, like there is one very prominent and famous term like privilege escalation. Once the vulnerability is found, let's say my door is open, anybody can enter it, right? So once the attacker will get the access, the attacker may do the privilege escalation or like remote code execution as we have discussed, right? So remote code execution like you can say SQL injection kind of attack. Now what is privilege escalation? There are n number of levels of security or maybe the privileges in every system happens. So like any Linux system, they are having three types of users. So the normal user, system users, and the root user, administrator, right? So there are three types of users exist in every Linux system. And when an attacker is entered, let's say it is entering or getting the access as a normal user. So it try to get the escalation of the privileges and try to act or use that machine as the administrator, right? So this is the consequences. If anybody is entering because of our mistake, then these things will happen. If patching is so critical, why don't we just do it? So if it is required, if patching is very necessary, then why we are not able to manage? Not only we, the large organizations like Google or bank servers or n number of organizations are there. Why they are not able to do it on right time? So the thing is, many of the organizations if trying to patch the things manually, like it is demonstrated on left side in the diagram. So obviously, because the system is very huge, manual solutions are not viable. They are not applicable, right? Then the automation is there, we can do it the things. So if we are aware about, okay, these are the vulnerabilities, these are the flaws, we can patch them, and we can tick mark, okay, this is done, this is done, this is done, this is done, right? Once we do it, then we can say, okay, system is secure. But it is not that easy. It is not that easy, because when I'm saying system, that may be a huge network, right? It is not a single thing. When you talk about your university or any big system, there are n number of systems. So the problem is hidden complexities. So when we are going to patch the things or we are going to track the vulnerabilities, there are hidden challenges are there. So what are the hidden challenges? Like the old systems, like you are using very old Windows XP kind of system if you are using, then this is one type of vulnerabilities. Second thing is, let's say you are having your system which is like a mess. Like, so mess like you don't have proper asset management kind of thing. You don't know what exactly we need to store it. You don't have proper documentation. No standard procedures are being followed by the organizations. So, and then related to the hardware also, or human errors also, these things are very complex to manage, although it look like, okay, we can patch the known vulnerabilities. So there are three pillars to make any system secure: people, process, and your that machine or system, right? So that then people we have already talked about, like ownership or collaboration. So there are n number of developers of the system, or maybe the users of the system, owner of the system. These all are people. So like you can say there are team, those are managing the infrastructures like DevOps infrastructure development and DevOps operations, security infrastructure executive. So there are different responsibilities different people are playing to make a single system, right? And at any level, because one, let's say if I am only the person who is going to deal a system, the system may be more secure. But if n number of people are dealing, then it will make my system vulnerable, right? So collaboration, we need it because we are going to build a huge system, right? But it is going to be very challenging when we are working in collaboration. The vulnerability management or patching is getting difficult. Then separation of duties is the another key. So when the system is being handled like a collaborative team, then who will do which particular thing, that need to be finalized, right? Then finally the reporting is the very important thing. So if at the executive level or engineer level or any of the things, everybody should prepare the report by following the government guidelines like NIST, or there are different organizations, they have already floated the guidelines. Accordingly, everybody should prepare the report and share in a collaborative environment. Then only the system will intact, and any update or anything will get to know by everybody else in the system. So the very first thing, core patching processes, just step, you find out the inventory, like you asset, maintain the list or inventory list of your assets. Then you maintain the regular patching kind of. So step 2, if any vulnerability is there, you just have to have a module to build the patching and patch the vulnerabilities, and then rollback like if you are doing a modification in the system and that modification like a patch that may also cause some problems. So if you are patching a vulnerabilities and that patch is causing problem, then there has to be a procedure to roll back that, right? And then monitoring. So once you are doing the patch, then the task is not done. After doing it, you need to monitor it. Continuously monitoring will be required. Otherwise, there may be flaws. Okay. So to make the system intact, there need to be harmony between people, process, and technology. Fine enough. Now, the third is, let's say, the technology. So there are multi types of technology we have already gone through. Like in technology, like there may be scripts, asset inventories, vulnerability scanner, and reporting dashboards. So there are different tech stacks are available. They may be maintained in different, like maybe JavaScript or Java or a number of things. They are managing the tech stacks. So that is also going to be very challenging, right? How to handle that kind of. So there are different practices are available. That's why the patching is not that easy to maintain. Okay. So if we want to make this process automated, then it is going to be challenging and we have to follow the standard procedure. Otherwise, it is going to be never ending process. So although the vulnerability management, like it is like infinity, they are making it. So if there is a threat, you are dealing it, you are patching it. If there is a threat like red, then you are dealing it, you are patching it. So this is continuous process. Continuously, we have to do it. Otherwise, system will not be secure, right? Fine enough. So let's move on to the next. Okay. So let's say if you attempt some question here, what is the recommended best practices to deal with the software that has reached its end of life? So the meaning is, if a software is like, if it is outdated, machine discontinued the software, then how to deal with it? I'm using Windows XP still in my organization. Then what I need to do is, the question is asking this. So to make system secure, we should not use outdated kind of software. Dr. Satnam Kaur, Charvi and Gagandeep is still active. Very good. Vishu ma'am, Ankita and Manish has also given me the correct answer, right? So I hope you know the answers, right? So you have to use continuous using the software, but ensure that the only patch during the schedule, no. That is, assign a security team to manually create, no. Remove the software from the, continuous using the software, right? Isolate the software on a separate network, no. So this, the two answers are correct. That should be the answer, right? So I think we can move on quickly. Which of the following is identified as a specific challenge associated with patching open source software? So if we try to patch the open source software, what type of challenges are there? What type of challenges we face in case of open source software? So quickly you can answer. Open source, like a community driven softwares are there. A huge community is there and they are building the softwares, right? So how we can patch such kind of softwares? Okay. So Dr. Satnam Kaur has given the right answer. Jagdeep Singh also, Charvi ma'am also, Vishu ma'am, no, Ankita and Manish Mahathi. So they have given the answer. Rest of the people are not answering, right? That's okay. Fine enough. So when it is come to the open source related kind of thing, it is mandatory built-in automation in an OSS open source software component often conflict with the existing enterprise tools. So that may be the challenge, right? Fine enough. So let's move on. To ensure the successful patch management, what three elements must in harmony, that we know that. So people, process and technology, right? So they need to be in harmony, then only we can manage the patch management effectively. Otherwise, it is not possible, right? So I hope everybody can give the correct answer for this, right? Now we can view the response. There are more responses. Okay. So I hope all are correct in that way. Now securing configurations. So because we are bound to integrate a number of softwares, right? And if the softwares are not properly configured, then there'll be obviously loopholes or vulnerabilities and anybody can exploit it, right? So this configuration step is very important. And if softwares are properly configured, then the risk of exploitation will be very less. Okay. So I think this, we should not continue. Vishwam, the time is, I think, 5 to, how much time is left?
Yes, sir. You may continue for the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. So how we need to deal with the secure configuration, that is very important. Let's go through it and check it. Okay. So if there is a threat, like how we will deal it. So any system, like we are having n number of components of a large system, like the physical computers or laptops or mobile or cloud or n number of things, or hardware based things are also there, right? Now we need to configure the things in such a way so that the system will be protected intact and less vulnerable. What cause more hacks, genius criminals or simple mistakes? So the answer is very simple. Simple mistakes actually the cause. If my door of my house is already open, then anybody can get entered. So although whosoever is building this particular house in which I am staying or living, if I do not lock it, that is my responsibility, right? So that the human factor is very like a weak link. Then the unlocked digital doors that we are seeing, like some open doors, or you can say the vulnerabilities or some issues, which is dependent on the human factor, that is making your system vulnerable. So at the time of configuration, we need to very clear that the doors should not be open unknowingly at the time of configuration. So misconfiguration is a very dangerous thing. Okay. So secure configuration, how product and services are set up, changing default setting to reduce security risk, right? So usually when we install any software, we do next. Okay. Go for the default setting. And in many of these situations, default setting may not be secure, or default setting may be okay for a normal system. But if you are a very like a manager or the security personnel, then you need to look into it and try to change the configuration according to your environment. So your configuration is dependent on the environment in which the machine is going to be operated, right? So if there is a bug, like, right? So regular scanning is required. If there is a problem, we start patching it. But there are chances that we have closed n number of doors, but few of the doors are still open, and that can be utilized, right? So what are the dangerous faults are the human in terms of configuration? There are broken links as displayed in this picture, right? So there is a trade-off need to be required between the usability and security. So what exactly, when I'm building a software, what is my actually prime intention is my software must be usable. Everybody must be capable to use my software. So when I try to make it usable, somehow I start compromising from the security perspective. If I make my software so like most of the people or most of the platforms, they are allowing single sign on kind of thing. So you sign on in one machine, and the same sign on, once you are sign on, next time it will not ask. Why? Because we are trying to make the product usable by the normal user. So if I every time try to ask sign on, if every week I try to ask to update the key or the password, then it will be uncomfortable. Many of the people will become uncomfortable. They may stop using my product. So this trade-off is very, very challenging for the development team, for the companies, right? So usability, ease of use, and when you are just making it ease of use, most of the company focusing this, then they are compromising with the security. So this diagram is depicting like that, right? Now out of the box configurations are really hardened. Users must apply security guides. So there are different guides available by the organizations. Even when we are buying any software or using any software, there are huge list or the guidelines are available. But what user is doing, just check marks and move next. So we are not reading the guidelines, we are not reading the agreements, nothing, and just using the softwares blindly, and that is making the softwares or the our system vulnerable, right? So that is our responsibility, that we go through the guidelines by given by NSA kind of National Security Authority, right? Or the Cyber Information or Security Authority. So there are different authorities available, and we need to go through the guidelines floated on their websites, and then we need to manage our system accordingly. So we try to break such kind of links in terms of configuration. So if any guideline is given, we try to avoid that, use that guideline and avoid such kind of flaws in the system. So the massive mistakes, when we don't follow the standards or guidelines, then we make our system vulnerable. That is very obvious, right? So it is like that. let's say your door lock is broken, okay, and you are having a new lock also, but you are not utilizing the new lock and you are still using the broken lock. That is a kind of mistake we unknowingly we make in terms of softwares. Okay, so there is guidance from the experts available. How to lock the door, you can learn from your elders maybe. In terms of software, there are some organizations or experienced people, they give you the guidelines how to deal with the software, how to configure. Please, we need to follow as an you can say responsible security personnel, right? So that is very much required. Then global community experts are available, there are global consensus available, there are guides available, those are helping us to make our system secure. There are security foundations putting it into the practice, that they are creating a number of awareness programs, how to deal with the vulnerabilities, how to use it, how to use softwares wisely. Even government, they do conduct, but we don't follow the guidelines. Even we are computer engineers, then also we don't follow. Then what about the common people, right? So core principles like secure by design, build security in form of the start, not as an after through, right? So security is the pre-concern. It is not like the system you have built and later on you start thinking about the security, right? It is not a good idea. Then automate checks. Whatever the checks, that should not be manual. There has to be automation. So continuously that 24/7, the monitoring should be required. Then always reviews. Routinely review and update the configurations. Then only there are chances, then we can, so immediately when my software is reporting some bug, I'm immediately rushing and fixing it, right? So what unlocked doors exist in your world? If we think like wherever we are, what kind of unlocked door we are having in terms of software? So on computers, like I say, weak password is a kind of unlocked kind of door. Or maybe if you check in your system, there may be a number of user existing which you never use. That is also kind of unlocked door, right? Let's say in your system, you have installed a number of softwares, and those softwares you are not either using or you are not aware about their power, what kind of privileges, next, or allow when you are doing at the time of configuration, what kind of consequences may be faced, right? So the people, those who are trying to learn the cyber security, they usually install a number of softwares. For preparing these things, from last 1 2 months, I'm trying to install a number of new softwares, although I don't know the consequences, right? So I think for today it is sufficient. From here onward, we will continue tomorrow, and tomorrow we will discuss a number of tools, and I'll try to give you some demonstrations also. So I hope, Dr. Vishu, it's okay for the day.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, sir. We are also
Thank you.
having one session tomorrow that is on the testing web services and
Right.
APIs.
Right.
So your session was very clear. You have explained well, and that is very insightful for all of the participants. So I request all the participants to switch on their cameras so that I can record the same. It's my request to all the participants to switch on their cameras.
Deepak sir is also here. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. How are you, Pushpendra?
I'm good, sir. I'm good.
I had just joined just 10 minutes back.
Okay.
Good evening, Deepak sir.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening, Deepak sir.
Good evening, ma'am. I'm audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, I am
What a
now.
lovely coincidence. Two experts are at the same time in the same frame, huh?
And the most experienced expert, Dr. Pateriya is also here. Huh? A expert.
Yes, thank you, participants. Thank you so much, Pushpendra sir.
Thank
We
you,
are
ma'am.
going to start with the next session now. Feedback and attendance link is already shared in the chat box. Make sure everybody has filled that up. So now we are going to start our next session with Dr. Deepak Prashar. So that is a session number 10, and it is going to focus on our next topic, that is security misconfigurations and exposure. So Dr. Deepak Prashar has earned his MTech from the Peck University of Technology, Chandigarh, and he is PhD from Punjab Technical University. He is currently serving as a professor and associate dean in the School of Computer Science and Engineering at Lovely Professional University. He has over 16 years of academic and administrative experience. He is also having extensive research profile with more than 100 publications in reputed Scopus and SCI Index journals. He is having over 20 patents and the copyrights. He has also edited books with the leading publisher like Elsevier and CRC Press. Dr. Prashar is presently pursuing his postdoc from the Florida State University, USA, and also have contributed internationally as a coordinator of Erasmus Project CS for All. He is CompTIA Network Plus and EC Council certified professional. His research spans from wireless sensor networks, blockchain, machine learning, IoT, image processing, and cybersecurity. He is also serving as a reviewer and editorial member for many of the reputed SCI journals and frequent keynote speaker at international conferences. So we are having a privilege to have him with us today, and I'm going to invite Dr. Deepak Prashar to lead this session number 10 on security misconfiguration and exposures. So join with me, all the participants, and welcome Dr. Deepak Prashar.
Thank you so much,
Sir, the
Vishu
session
ma'am.
is yours now.
Thank you. I hope I'm audible to you, Vishu ma'am.
Yes, sir, you are audible, and I'm
Okay.
going to provide you the rights also.
Sure, sure. So first of all, I would like to thank each one of who is present over here, especially Dr. Prateek ji, Vishu ma'am, all my colleagues, Pushpendra ji also, Jyoti ma'am also, who was with us also in LPU a very long time back, and everyone who has been the part of this particular session. Special thanks, ma'am, for the nice introduction from your side. So today my presentation would be majorly on this topic of security configurations and exposure, basically misconfiguration, I would say. So I'm going to share my some views also, like even Dr. Pushpendra ji has mentioned it very well, Pushpendra sir, like what about the challenges in the vulnerability management? So because vulnerability is one of the major concern. I have gone through all your lectures even that start with the reconnaissance by Avdesh also, and then later on by Ruhi ji and others, like based on cross-site scripting and other things, which are very pioneer in terms of cyber security. So my today this presentation would be totally a different one. That would be more on security misconfigurations. Like a lot of things we talk about in cyber security, but one of the prime concern is that we are not knowing something which we should need to do. So I will going to dwell this thing very soon, like what are the various security misconfigurations, even though we are knowing the things, but we are accidentally not doing, or sometimes we are unintentionally not doing the things. So let me share my presentation, then we're going to start. So my total this particular presentation or this work is or the discussion would be moving around the security misconfigurations, specifically about the web applications. And I'm going to demonstrate one or two demonstrations also, which are very simple one, but you might be knowing or you might not be knowing, but it is very important to understand the concept that what is the underlying principle of security misconfigurations. So let me start with this one. Let me share my presentation first of all with you. Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Vishu ma'am, can you see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now I'm going to the presentation mode. It is okay, sir?
Hanji, Hanji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. So this one is about, this presentation is about the security misconfiguration and exposure. So anyone, first of all, I would know to, my question is for everyone very openly, that anyone who can tell me something about security misconfiguration, anything what you know about security misconfiguration, what it could be? What it could be like security misconfiguration? Because you can talk in technical terms, you can talk in layman term, that doesn't matter. But first, we should be at the same page that what we are talking about. What is a security misconfiguration? Any idea? Anyone? Because the term misconfiguration, I have seen just Pushpendra ji, he has mentioned about one term, configuration, in the last 5-10 minutes also. So when we talk about the misconfiguration means we are not configuring the things in a right manner. And when we are not configuring the things in a right manner means, but we are not configuring means we are not putting the right settings. Simple term in a layman language. So this leads to so many loopholes which can be exploited by the attackers or intruders, and that can make your system, your application to standstill mode. So that thing we need to understand what are those security misconfiguration and how to deal with those misconfiguration. What are the ways? So my talk would be more about those misconfigurations which are being there and how that can be tackled to larger extent. So let's start with this one. So when I talk about the security misconfigurations, the first and the foremost thing is that a security misconfiguration occurs when your system or your application settings are incorrectly configured. Means, suppose like I have my system, okay, we are running so many applications, and when those applications or the settings are not being configured properly, means something is being missing in those applications. We are not configured them properly on our system or the applications. So that leads to some areas, that leads to some unopened areas, or you can say some uh, open vulnerabilities, which can be taken up by the attackers to compromise those vulnerabilities, and they can create some assaults. So basically, when I talk about these, there are a lot of threats which could be there, which leads to unauthorized access, maybe, which can lead to your other possible attacks which could be done on those systems or those applications which are not configured properly, and that could make your application, that could make your organization at risk. Let's take a simple example. When I talk about cybersecurity 21, I talk about three things. Cybersecurity is all about three things. The first thing is attack. The second thing is the defense. And the third and the foremost thing is how to report. Clear? So each and everything you need to understand from cybersecurity point of view. So when I talk about the misconfigurations, so misconfiguration make your organization, make your applications, whatever the applications you're running on your system, or you might have deployed something on the cloud. Maybe your organization has something using cloud services, and the services are not being configured properly. There are some loopholes. So that could be utilized by the attacker to compromise in the times to come. And that could be one of the, I would say, a major flow in your applications also. It could be a cloud infrastructure, it could be a network setup, or it could be any application. So basically, there are a lot of examples you can talk about for misconfigurations and the exposures. So one of the best example I would talk about is unpatched software, unpatched system. You know that there are a lot of things we came to know every day, like Windows and so many applications you are using. They are coming with the various patches. We are using some applications and there comes with some patches. And if we are not updating, we are not patched those applications. So we are keeping our systems, our application at a vulnerable state. Sometimes the another issue which is with the security misconfiguration is basically your default account settings. 90% of our cases, we use the default settings. Now, every one of you might be know about Cisco Packet Tracer. If you have worked on Cisco routers also or Juniper routers, you might be knowing once you are using your, if you're configuring your router, by default, the admin and the username are same, Cisco 123. It is a similar thing. Okay. So no one is going to change. Everyone knows that once you take any Cisco router, so by default, the username and the admin, that password is by default user 123 or Cisco 123. So by default, these is basically, I would consider as a misconfiguration, a security misconfiguration. Everyone knows they can go anyone, like just like suppose I am a hacker or I'm an attacker. What I need to do, I just need to get the guidelines from the Cisco website about those router configurations. I know what are the username and password by default, and I can easily being entered to that particular system through some other ways, maybe through remote desktop, through RDP, remote desktop protocol, or maybe through some other ways also. So basically, when we talk about these organizations like Juniper, Cisco, or wherever, these are called OEM, original equipment manufacturer. These organizations who are making these devices, they also comes with a by default these passwords, username and password. So this is basically one of the security misconfiguration, we would say, if it is not being done properly, if it's not being set accurately. We know that we have an email ID and passwords. Let's take one example I used to take for my university LPU. Whenever we set up the ID UMS password, if someone knows about, we have the LMS UMS. So by default, the password is known to everyone. We have to set it right. Otherwise, it is basically a misconfiguration, a security misconfiguration. Again, when you talk about the common services like FTP, SMTP, SSH, a lot of services are there. So anyone can use, the anonymous user can use these services. So there is no such issue with them to using those services. Like for FTP, you can log in with the username and password, and you can try N number of times. If you're not knowing the password, I can do a brute force. I can use a dictionary attack, and by that I can able to access FTP server also. So there is no rate limit is being set. There is nothing is being set that how many attempts would be taken care, and after a particular number of attempts, you are not able to access the FTP server. So that is basically a misconfiguration. In a simple term, like you are entering your password on Gmail. After 3 attempts, maybe you'll not be able to enter and you have to wait for some particular time. So that is being patched. But in majority of the cases, it is not being done. And this leads to a lot of challenges, a lot of issues also. Let's take a simple example of unencrypted files also. There are a lot of files, a lot of data is being stored on the servers. And if it is not being encrypted, it leads to unauthorized access. Any data breach, anyone can tamper the data. If we are giving access to everyone, there is no access controls has been set up, and granting access to every user as access means there is no such demarcation has been done. That is also a cause of risk, or that could be a security misconfiguration. A simple example I can take in terms of cloud misconfiguration, because we are in a digital era and we are using cloud for every services, cloud infrastructure, maybe a Google Cloud, GCP, or we are talking about AWS. So there are a lot of misconfiguration also in the cloud side, like S3 bucket is there. And if we keep that bucket open to public, anyone can do unauthorized access and can access the sensitive information. So basically, when we talk about the security misconfigurations, it is very, very important that we should need to understand that how this configuration, how this misconfiguration could be pose a threat to our application, to our resources, to our network, to our devices also. So basically, our objective to understand is that how to recognize these misconfigurations. What are the common misconfigurations which are being there? How to find those misconfigurations? What are the ways? And how to basically tackle these misconfigurations? What are the ways by which we need to ensure that this misconfiguration could be reduced to larger extent? So one thing we need to understand, I will going to show you one demo later on after some time. So when I talk about the basic this concept of this misconfiguration, let's talk about a simple example. So why this is a root cause, but why these misconfigurations are happen? Okay, there could be a lot of issues could be there, a lot of reason could be there, but the one of the say I would say is the poor ownership, because what we have seen that no one is going to take the ownership. Okay, no one is accountable. The ownership or the accountability is not clear. Okay, like if we are working in an organization, we know that these are the employees, these are the faculty members, these are the leadership role, these are the person with the higher level. So there must be some demarcation, and there should be what we need to provide some demarcation, and we need to say that yes, they should have the different accounts, they have different privileges which they have, they are knowing. But if we are giving the each one the same privileges, so that is not going to serve the purpose. So again, when we talk about, there are a lot of, another reason could be the complex stacks. The architects are being increasing the complex, the modern architect, the modern infrastructure is so much difficult to understand. We talk about cloud, we talk about containers, we talk about Kubernetes, but majority of us are not knowing what the underlying principle of this working. And if we are not knowing the underlying principle of modern architect or the modern devices or the modern functionalities, it is very difficult to tackle the issues if there would be any issues in their network, and how we going to manage those issues. So again, when we talk about these complex stacks or the complex architect, this is another reason by which leads to misconfiguration. Like the complexity of the IT environment. We are using cloud, we are using hybrid system. Now we talk about using default settings. This is one of the reasons. But we talk about, if I talk about the IT infrastructure or you talk about the complex stacks, the one of the reason is basically we are using microservices, we are using containers I spoke about, we're using hybrid clouds, but they are very complex configurations, which majority of us are not knowing. And even we are not being trained on those aspects also, if there would be any concern, if there would be any issue. Another important thing which leads to it is basically insecure default settings, which I already talked about. Like by default settings we are not changing them. And moreover, sometimes what we have seen, there's always a pressure to deliver the new features and services quickly as per the demands of the customer also. So in a hurry also, most of the times we pay less heed or less attention to I would say, to manage or to test those configurations, to do the right settings also. So there are a lot of things which are being there. And another thing which is very important, which is a root cause, is the lack of auditing and validation. Without proper auditing, without proper validation, like vulnerability scanning, penetration testing, there would be a lot of misconfiguration would be there, and which cannot be patched at the right time. And when that later on, that would lead to so much challenging situation for the organizations. That's why whenever we talk about in cybersecurity, we also talk about what BAPT. We always talk about compliance, because compliance is one of the major things, GRC, governance system compliance, which is one of the necessity in terms of cybersecurity in the current scenario. Now, when we talk about this concept, like how the things are being there, just give me 1 second. Optimize, need to use this one. Yes. So another thing which we need to talk about is that why we talk the attackers are doing, how they are compromising, or how they are doing with the help of the infrastructure. So attackers are very smart. Okay, there are different ways by which they can compromise. They can do make your presence in your environment, in your infrastructure. Okay, so basically this is called the shadow IT effect. So what is the simple terms when I talk about the shadow IT? Let me tell you very in a simple way how you can define a shadow IT effect. Like suppose you are working in some organization. Suppose I was there in Palo Alto, which is one of the pioneer organization in cybersecurity in the month of February in Bengaluru. So what I have seen, that majority of the persons, they are the part of who are working in their premises in Palo Alto or any other organization, they have to do multi-factor authentication. They have to go with zero trust. Even the head of that cloud service division, he has to authenticate. He has to authenticate himself whenever he's using the laptop in the premise. He has to go multi-factor authentication and other checks also before using any system, even using mobile phone in their premises, because this is called a zero trust. Never trust anything. But what we have seen, the majority of the cases, these things are not being considered. They are not being taken in a serious note. And whenever, suppose if I'm working in an organization, I am a trusted one over here. I'm carrying my personal laptop. I'm trying to connect my personal laptop with that organization network also. So basically, if that network is not allowing me to connect my another gadget to that network, that is a good thing. But majority of the cases, it is not being happen. So this is called a shadow IT effect, basically. It means we are using the services, we are using basically what we are looking for, we making the unauthorized or unmanaged systems, we trying using software and cloud services are used in an organization. We want to use the services, we want to use to enter the network in an unauthorized way, which we are not intended to do so. So basically this is called the shadow IT effect, which is one of the major concern is which is there in case of the infrastructure because of the misconfigurations. Like it is mentioned, like untracked assets are there, some old age IP address. Suppose another issue I would simply say is that if someone is working in your organization and that person has left that organization, but still their credentials are still working, they still have the access to those credentials. So again, there are a lot of other concerns which you should understand when we talk about in case of the shadow IT effect, in case of which is one of the misconfigurations in the enterprise level, in the organization level, is that there should be no policies, or there is unproved devices which are not the approved one, which is not in the category which is being listed, but the personal devices can be connected with a corporate network without any security vetting, which I just telling you. You can see, if you are using any cloud services which is not authorized, which is not being permitted in an organization, still you're using those services. So again, let's say a simple example, you're using your Dropbox, you're using your Google Drives. So there is no such check that how we can't use our Google Drive in some organization. We can use it. So there is no such check which is being posted by any organization that how you can use it. So again, these are the things which can lead to misconfiguration in the times to come. One important concern which I need to point out here is that with the advent of this technology, we talk about generative AI. A lot of tools you have seen comes in the market. I'm not talking about DeepSeek or Gemini or other tools, but a lot of other tools which are being used in the current scenarios, which are unsanctioned artificial intelligence tool, which have the concern, which have the potential vulnerabilities, and still we are using those applications because at a risk. Okay, we are not knowing whether that tool is effective one, but still we are using it. So this is called the shadow AI. So a lot of things we are using APIs also, which is created by the developers also, but they are not documented, they are not managed, they are not properly verified, and we are using those things. Same is the case with the end devices. Some APIs, some applications, which are not being finalized, which are not being vetted properly. So attackers are actively scanning these assets. They want to see, because what Pushpendra sir has mentioned in the last lecture, in his presentation, asset management. So this is one of the prime concern. So what attackers are looking for, they are looking that they actively scan these assets because they want to take some way to enter to your network, to enter the premises, to enter the application, to make a control on your systems, on your applications, okay, and to do some breaching or some other ways to enter to your systems. So this is very, very important. Need to understand that by using these shadowing ways, or this called shadow IT ways, so many things can be managed by the attackers, and they can be the part of your network. So when we talk about how the things is going to be visible, let's talk about, just give me 1 second. Okay. Now, another thing which is very important is about your critical critical flaws in identity management. Means one important thing which we need to understand here is IAM. Everyone know about IAM. Some of you might be knowing about internet access management, which is very identity access management, I would say, simple terms, which is very important. But there are some misconfigurations also. Means there are some loopholes also in IAM also. And what are the loopholes? Like if I am granting excessive permission to anyone, that is again a loophole. If I'm not using multi-factor authentication, that is again a misconfiguration. If I'm not able to remove any accounts which are orphan means stale account. Stale account means those account which doesn't belong to anyone. Suppose I belongs to LPU right now. I left the LPU maybe after some time, but still my Gmail or my account is working. If I have some account of some other organization, maybe from Comty, I have account. I have managed their profiles. I'm managing their what we can say, their certification vouchers. But I have the account that is linked with my email ID. If I'm able to use that account or email ID, I can even give my voucher to anyone, but to whom I like. So that is again a misconfiguration. It should be something like, once I'm not the part of that organization, that access right should never be belongs to me. So this is basically called the stale account. So the active account which belongs to ex-employees, vendors, because they have not been removed, still the privileges are there to them and they are unmonitored. Clear? So this is one of the major concern in identity access management misconfigurations. Another concern is wildcard permission. Wildcard permission means simple. Let's take a very simple example. Like in wildcard, what happened? Suppose there is one attacker, suppose let's take example of again UMS. I'm taking simple example of UMS, our own LMS system. So if we want to access the UMS, the simple is ums.lpu.in. Okay, so we have domain name, we have subdomain name. You might be knowing about the very basic concept of networking. If I'm writing ums.lpu.in, so what I'm getting to into it, I will be able to access the LPU web page. But if I write *lpu.in, it means I would have access to their UMS, to their exam, to their OMS, to other different web pages which could be there with the domain lpu.in. So it means this is called wildcard permission using this star, this in colon. And one of the best example I can take in SQL injection. If you know about SQL injection or SQL attack, which could be done even through Kali Linux or some other ways also. So again, these kind of wild permission or these kind of things are being utilized. And by putting these kind of, you can say these mnemonics, the attackers could be able to get the access. They are able to get the APIs keys. They are able to deploy any payload on a particular website, and they can compromise the website. Another reason is the lack of multi-factor authentication, which I already told you, which is one of the major reason that because of this, there is one of the misconfiguration in IAM. And again, overprivileged account means if I'm not being entitled with those permissions, but still that are granted to me. So basically, how we can take care of these concerns, this is very important. We must not give excessive privileges. We must grant the user based on their rules. Whatever their rules are there, we have to set the permissions or the privileges based on that. Okay. We must go with a strong multi-factor authentication mechanism. We need to enforce multi-factor authentication. Now, if I would ask you, how many of us are using multi-factor authentication? That is again a challenge. We know that it is important. It's a need of the hour. But I am very much sure 80% or 90%, 70, I would say roughly figure 70% of we are not using multi-MFA. I'm using MFA only for LinkedIn, not for other purposes. Still, so I know that is at risk, but still we are not using it. So this is again could be a misconfiguration at our end. Another thing which could be is your orphaned account, means the account which are still active and to whom the user to whom they would belong, they are no more in the organizations, or they have left out, or the project has been ended. So these are basically the critical, I would say, the misconfigurations which are related to internet identity access and management. These are very important because we need to understand what could be the possible misconfigurations. So misconfigurations are not only with the devices, but with the applications, with the end devices, with web applications, what we are using. So everything we need to understand that point of view. Now, another thing we talk about in the last slide, we talk about that IAM based misconfiguration. Another thing is the authorization and access control misconfiguration. Now, we talk about there's always a difference between authorization. Huh? So we talk about authorization and access control. Who means who is authorized, who has the rights, who has the privileges to access those resources, to those services. So basically, what authorization and access control gaps leads to vulnerabilities. Basically, when a user can perform any actions, they can access any resources without their permissions, without the limitations. So that also leads to some vulnerabilities or misconfigurations. Like you can, if there is no such gaps or there are no such checks has been posted or put over there, you can do unauthorized modification of data. You can make changes in the APIs also. So basically, there are a lot of things which basically leads to this kind of unauthorizations, misconfigurations, like there is no server side validation. Whatever you are doing on the server, whatever the updation you are doing on the server side, they are not being validated. So definitely, if an attacker can also do some attacks on the through the APIs or fake APIs or changes the APIs credentials or API structure also and do some wrong validations, and the data would be stored on the server also. Again, one of the example I can take is the tenant isolation failure. Like there is lack of multi-tenant environment. Okay, let's take example. This one is basically an example of cloud, basically. Okay, like if you're using Google Drive, you can't access the Google Drive of others. I can access my Google Drive, but I can't access the Google Drive of others if the rights permissions are not given to me. The same is the case. So there should be a tenant isolation, means there should be proper isolation of the rights. But if there is a failure in that, again, that is again that leads to misconfiguration. Okay, there is a stale ACL reviews, means access control list, who has the privileges, who has the right. Just like take example of router, you configure a router, you define the port access security, you define which particular devices a router can access, what is the traffic which can come to a router, which port would be active. And if you're not accessing, we are not putting those things or checks on the ACL, on the access control list, that will also leads to the misconfigurations. But again, I would say there are some other things which are very important to understand. Means these kind of misconfigurations can lead to a lot of challenges to the organizations also. Means if there is I would say insufficient authorization, a normal person can view the accounts of other person. I can view any one account. Okay, if there is such not insufficient or lack of authorization is there. So how to address these gaps? So the first is that we need to enforce checks on the server side. Okay, anything you want to upload on the server, anything is not being that only the client side enforcement should be there. All requests need to be validated on the server side so that the user is authorized. Whatever the user is doing, that need to be validated by the server side also. Otherwise, there won't be again a challenge for misconfiguration. Another thing which we can be done is implementation of RBAC, that is role-based access control. Means whatever the role you have been signed, you are stick to it. So we need to define that these guys have these roles, they have these privileges, they can do these kind of things, they can't do these kind of things. And they have these privileges also, maybe attribute-based access control, RBAC. So that has to be deployed, that has to be managed in order to making sure that authorization related misconfiguration has never happened. There should be proper audits, security audits, proper multi-factor or multi-factor authentication or two-phase authentication or multi-stage authentication should be there to prevent the unauthorized access so that no one can compromise your credentials and other information. So one thing which is very much clear, whether we talk about authorization, whether we talk about your concepts of other concepts of misconfiguration, maybe flows, IAM or shadow IT, there are a lot of misconfiguration which could be present at each and every phase, at each and every stage. So we need to understand what are these misconfigurations. Let's take a simple example like this one slide is showing very simple thing like is basically what are the challenges like you know that there is a session management, how we can manage the session, huh? And we maintain the logs and logs are being managed. But if the logs of the sessions has not been managed, like we are doing on this particular on this meeting on Zoom also. So log is being maintained that who are the user, at what time they join, what time they leave. So everything is being managed at the log end. But again, if the logs are not being managed, it can also lead to misconfiguration. Okay, so basically logs are being maintained. The session management is being done to track the users, to track how many users are active, what pages they have logged in, how long time they were active on those pages. But if we are not using some proper steps or the proper ways, it leads to misconfiguration. Like if we are not using HTTPS, hypertext transfer protocol. So basically it leads to some attacks, maybe XSS, side scripting, or some other attacks which could be done. Okay. If we are not doing any kind of validations, we are not changing the passwords. We are not deploying the RBAC, role-based access control. That again would be a challenge. If we are using long-lived tokens, means whenever session is being created between the two devices or between application and a device, a session is being created as per the OSI model, very simple thing. But if we are keeping a long-lived tokens or long-lived session, it gives a chance for someone to do some attacks. In the meantime, they might do a dictionary, other attacks, or some advanced, maybe they can implement APT as advanced persistent threats also, because they have the potential to deploy some backdoors and they can keep a hold on your system, because they can even do a session hijacking, or they can get the session ID and they can see that session and they create a fake session also. So a lot of things can be done. So always 50% of the cases we have seen, it has been there that long-lived tokens leads to these kind of misconfigurations. Sometimes the tokens are given in URL also. If you have noticed, sometimes we write something on the browser, and once you click on this one, doing mainly doing online transaction, you can see that is mentioned session ID. Something number is being also mentioned. So that session ID is being taken by the attacker to compromise. And even if we are passing those tokens or the IDs to a proper in a normal URL, so basically what we are doing, we are giving a chance to the attacker to compromise our security and do some assaults. So guys, basically what we talk about, so common vulnerabilities could be long-lived sessions, which last long for a long time, which gives the opportunity for the attacker to steal the token and to compromise. It could be insecure storage token, means the token where they are stored, that is not being stored in a proper way. There could be some, even the tokens are not stored in an encrypted form. They are put in a plain text mode. Also, this could be one of the failure. So how to prevent this kind of session management, or this one tokens misconfiguration, how to manage it? First and the foremost thing is that we have to use HTTPS. Okay. Second thing which could be there is that we have to set secure cookies attributes. So we have to set flags like HTTP only. We have to set like flag like secure, this one. So these should be there. Once you do these kind of things, you will understand once we talk about at a very minute or a depth level, when we talk about the session management and how the data is being stored in the cookies. So there are a lot of things are there. And moreover, your short-lived tokens could be there. Means like let's take a simple example. Like, have you seen, like, in some cases, once you get a OTP, sometimes in some cases the OTP time is for 10 minutes. In some cases, one-time password is for 1 day. In some of the applications, like we talk Aadhaar verification, I'm not sure, but OTP is for 10 minutes only, the validation of that OTP. In some applications, the OTP validation for 3 minutes. You know, that is a short time, or that is basically token is for short-lived token, and that is more secure because they know what is the possibility of that token can be compromised by any ways, by any intruder. So that is the time by which they can try any ways. They can take any system of high configuration, but that cannot be compromised, that token. They are not able to get the in-depth information, what is being there, or the IDs which could be there in that tokens, by which they can compromise those applications. So basically, a short-lived token is one of the things by which these kind of attacks, which could be, I would say, which can be taken to a larger extent. And definitely, the validation of the token at the server side is to be done very efficiently. Some random generation of the tokens can be done. And that, you know, in cryptography, we talk about, if you remember, we talk about one algorithm, if I'm not wrong, Diffie-Hellman key exchange. If anyone knows about Diffie-Hellman key exchange, anyone knows? Could you recall Diffie-Hellman key exchange? Anyone? If you recall that how the key is exchanged between the two devices, Diffie-Hellman key exchange is again a process that how the two devices or two entities can exchange the keys without any third party to know. So basically, is the case. In this case, we talk about random token generation. Okay. So these are the things by which the session management and token insecurity or misconfigurations can be tackled to a larger extent. Now, another thing which is very important, I'm going to show you one demo also right now about the TLS and HTTPS and PKI misconfiguration. Now, let's take a very simple example. Anyone who can tell me what is PKI? Any idea? Any idea? Vishu ma'am, anyone?
Public key interface.
Yes, public key infrastructure. Public key infrastructure. You're true. Public key infrastructure. So basically, the PKI is used in case, if you remember, in cryptography, it is used for giving those certificates. If you remember, digital certificates. So whenever any application we are running, we want that it could be authenticated. It must be authenticated. Public key infrastructure. So basically, these applications, this protocol, transport layer security or hypertext transfer protocol, HTTPS, which is a port number 443. So basically, these are the transport layer security and HTTP used for secure communication of the browser. Okay, so that the data confidentiality is being maintained and integrity is maintained. And how data confidentiality is different from integrity? Integrity means if there is any tampering of the data, it will be known to the user. And confidentiality means they won't be known to the third party, only known to sender and the receiver. But again, these TLS and HTTPS and this PKI, there are a lot of misconfigurations also in these protocols also. And if these protocols has not been configured well, it leads to a lot of issues also. So most of the misconfigurations occur during their setup stage when they are being set up, like in any infrastructure. And this leads to a lot of attacks, maybe MITM, maybe middle attack. It could be any compliance violation. It could be any data breach. Now, why I'm telling you this thing? Because we have seen that a lot of protocol like SSL v3, TLS, their versions, they are not the secure one. They are very vulnerable. Okay. It could be the reason that they are using a cipher suit, which is of short length. The other reason could be that the certificates which are used, they are not authenticated one, they are expired one. Or we are creating self-signed certificate that have no authenticity, means I'm generating the certificate, but I'm not the certifying authority, which can be proved. So a lot of things can be done. And if you can see, sometimes you visit the website, it is being written over there. This site is SSL encrypted. They have sometimes you have to manage, you have to click the certificate, you can have to download the certificate in order to manage the application, in order to store some application on your systems, or in order to use browsers sometimes. So basically, it gives you that leverage, it gives you the indication that your data, your application, whatever you're using on your system, they are secure. So there are a lot of common public infrastructure misconfiguration. One of the thing is that the misconfiguration certifying authorities. The certifying authority is not being configured properly. There are weak private keys are used. And one of the major concern is they are not implementing strict transport security. It is called HSTS. Strict, that is hypertext transfer protocol, strict transport security protocol, which is not being used. Let me show you this, how it would be utilized. And another thing which is being there is the Active Directories, that they are not being configured properly. And we are allowing, for let's take example, if we are installing Microsoft Active Directories, and in some cases we are allowing user to provide their names. So it gives anyone to compromise your systems. And it leads to impersonation also, because anyone can use my name also. So these are the very basic flaws or very basic challenges which could be there in case of the misconfiguration. Let me show you a simple thing. Just give me 1 second. If I can show you, my screen is visible to everyone. Vishima, my screen is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay. Now look here. I'm just telling you how this, I was talking this example of HTTP strict transport policy security. We know that by default, this the port number of HTTPS is 443. Yeah? And by default, the port number of HTTP is what? Port number 80 by default. Yeah? And S means secure. Now, let's take a simple example when we talk about how this HTTP, PS and PKI configurations has been managed. Now, let's take about this one. I'm just opening this one. Just give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. If you write google.com, if you write Google, if you write this one, rate working. Okay. Just give me 1 second. Okay. If you can see on your systems also, let me talk about, if you can see on your system, if you type google.com or if you type lpu.in, what you can see. If you even type lpu.in, lpu.co.in, it basically use HTTPS by default, because here the HTTP strict transport security is being implemented. Okay. Let me show you through a command prompt. That would be better. Let me show you through command prompt. Suppose, look here. I'm writing one command to show you curl. Okay. And let me show you this one. Yes. Curl space. I'm writing the website HTTP. And I'm writing this LPU. Maybe Google. I'm not writing Google because by default Google is also using HTTPS. LPU.in. Have you seen this one? I have just written HTTP. I'm not written HTTPS. I'm just written what hypertext transfer protocol. It is visible, Vishu ma'am, to you?
Deepak sir, only presentation is visible.
Just give me 1 second. Okay, okay. Just give me 1 second. Let me share my entire screen, Anna. That would be better. Just give me 1 second, sir. Sorry. Let me show. Let me. Just give me 1 second.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. My presentation is
The
visible or everything is visible?
presentation is only visible, sir.
Just give me 1 second. Just give me 1 second. Okay. I'm just sharing my screen again. That would be better. Okay, stop share. Okay. I'm sharing it again. That will be better. Sharing the entire screen. The screens. Entire screen. Now, Pushpendra sir, could you see it? Now it is okay.
It's visible, sir.
Now look here.
Yes.
I just type over there lp.in. So I'm not written anything over there. You know? I'm not written https:/lpu.in. You know? So by default, you know, whatever the applications which are secure, by default, they are HTTPS. When I click over here, you can see the connection is secure. Clear? And even when you click over there, you can see what is the security. The secure certificate is valid. The valid certificate is there. Okay. You can see the common name, that is the name of that certificate, who's the organization who certified this certificate, what was the issue date also. Everything is being there. And which encryption is algorithm is being used, SHA, secure hash algorithm, 256. So basically, you can get the details of this one also, that this domain lpo.in, okay, it is being certified. So basically, I'm just telling you what is basically your strict HTTPS. Clear? Means if you even type lpu.in or if you type google.co or in, if the websites are HTTPS, they are secure by default. And who is able to make them secure? This strict HTTPS. But if you look at some other websites, they are not being secure. Let me take this one. I was on this one. Have you seen? I have typed this one. I have typed the command curl http://lpu.in. Once I type this command, you can see it is mentioned 301 move permanently. What it means? It means my request is being, I have typed HTTP. By default, my request must go to HTTP server, AT port. But it's moved to what? 301 move permanently. It means what it means signifies. It signifies that my request is not going to that normal HTTP service, going to HTTPS secure. So by default, who is doing this thing? It is done through the secure HTTPS protocol, which I was talking about. Now let's take a simple example. So I'm not able to access anything over there. You can see, but if that website, that application, that website is not being HTTPS, then you can see how it would be. You can able to access each and everything of that website. Like you can take curl. I'm taking one web page, HTTP, which is used for testing purpose, which is not your normal purpose. Test PHP. You might be knowing someone who's doing the cyber security light of stuff. They might be knowing this vulnweb or yes, vulweb.com or some other website. So this website, look here. I'm just click on this website, you can see I'm able to get all the details over there. You can see this, if you know about this was settings or HTML code, CS, everything is being there. UTF-8 is here. That basically it is used how the data is being converted to Sky code to images, formats, and other format. So I'm able to get the basic layout of basic configuration of that website. The web page, basically, the web page, I would say. So this thing is being accessible to you because I'm on a command prompt. I'm not only on the GUI mode. So basically, it signifies that you are not, this website is not using that particular thing which I was talking about, which is HTTP strict transport security. It is clear to everyone? Can we go further, sir? Vishu ma'am, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So basically, it's very simple thing. I'm just taking very simple understanding how this HTTPS, how these misconfigurations are there. So majority of the websites, if they are not HTTPS, they are on a verge of being compromised very easily. Anyone can easily get the whole schema, whole detail of that web page, and even they can do deploy or do any kind of attack on those applications. So this is one of the things which I need to tell you. Now, web security hardening, or what are the header misconfiguration? I told you HTTP protocol, but again, the HTTP is having some header also. So there are some misconfiguration in the headers which could be utilized by the attackers to compromise those applications. And these are the misconfiguration. What are these misconfiguration? That we need to understand, that how the attackers are using those misconfigurations on the HTTP headers also. Sometimes the header length is quite large. Sometimes unnecessary information is there in the header, which could be a point of source for the attackers to compromise those things. So header information or the header security is very important component for web security hardening. And this is very important. This is very, very important for you to understand about the web security hardening, that how the things has been managed. Now, there could be some concerns like how it could be there. What are the misconfiguration because of the HTTP headers, which leads to the vulnerabilities or the security misconfigurations? The first and the foremost thing I told you, there is no incorrect strict transport security, means that HSTS is not being implemented properly. They are not being configured. Another reason is that weak CSP. That is, there are weak content security policies are being there. Okay. And it means there is there is basically the challenges with is that they are some like they have mentioned unsafe inline. These things are not being mentioned properly. These things while creating those CSPs or doing the content security policies implementations. Sometimes there is a challenge with the incorrect refer policies also. There is a challenge with MIME sniffing, because MIME, you know about this. This one is used in the mail extensions in sending the mails. So basically, there are a lot of things, a lot of challenges which could be there because of the header misconfigurations. And the maximum time when the headers are not being properly configured, or unnecessary information is not being there on the header, that leads to a lot of attacks, maybe SSS or clickjacking or some other kind of attacks for to be implemented on those particular applications. So let's talk about this one. Just a second. Sir, my presentation is visible to you or not? Pushpendra sir?
It's visible, sir.
Visible, sir.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, just now. Another thing which is very important, because I'm just telling you the concept. It is a very huge topic. This is a very, very vast topic about misconfigurations. Because we are just talking what are the major misconfigurations we talk about. Another misconfiguration, we talk about coarse misconfiguration. So what is a cross origin resource sharing? Let me tell you a very simple example. What is cross or coarse origin? We talk about so coarse in an abbreviation term, but is called cross origin resource sharing. Let's take a simple example, like we are in India and someone is in USA. So sometimes we see some data, some websites we can access in India, which we cannot access in USA. I was in Nepal, and to my surprise, in 2 years back, the TikTok was banned in India. We were not able to access the TikTok, but in Nepal, the TikTok was still being used in 2 years back. I'm not talking about the present, the last situation which happened in the 3 months back also. But again, these are comes under course basically. Origin, what is the source of the region? From where the request has been sent by the user, from which particular location? So basically, how this course works, it works by how we can access, how we can share the resources among different origin, different locations in a proper way. So basically, when I talk about the course misconfigurations, it leads to a lot of vulnerabilities. Okay, because it leads some doors, unintended doors, I would say, that anyone can bypass the browser default. Okay, because there are some policies, same origin policy, SOP, but हम कहते हैं SOP or we sometimes we call single sign-in. So they are being overcome, they are being bypassed. Okay, I will show you one presentation later on, one scenario that how they are being bypassed. So basically, that is basically the reason why the course misconfigurations are there. And what are the reason why this has happened? The first and the foremost thing is the wildcard, which I already told you in my last one of my slide, that some specific trusted domains are not being used. Like this is a setting, access control allow origin. Okay, so this one is there. If you write if you write star over here instead of this one, so that will allow that access from any origin. Anyone can access the website from any place. So even you see, it should be like this one, true. And instead of true, if you write star, you're giving the path, you're giving the way to attackers or the intruders to enter your configurations or do the compromise to the course applications using this simple, using wildcard way. This could be some other way. The second reason could be the strict origin validations. They should be, if original validation should be there, they should be permissiveness could be there. They should be restrict credentials, which credential to be allowed, which credential should never be allowed, what headers to be allowed, which headers not to be allowed. These all needs checks need to be done once we need to work on cross origin resource sharing, because we need to restrict what to be accessed, which location can access, what cannot be accessed, from which location the data can be accessed or cannot be accessed. These all things need to be managed very effectively. And how it could be done? If there won't be any misconfiguration. You see, it's just this one change on the star and true that makes a huge difference, which gives a huge potential for the attacker to compromise your system or your network. So this is basically I would say that misconfiguration are one of the reasons. Another reason, another misconfiguration is basically because of CSRF. CSRF is called cross-site request forgery. CSRF is called cross-site request forgery. Let's take a very simple example. This particular slide, you can see over here, this how this CSRF works. Let me show you. You can see this mechanism, how this CSRF works. Now, let's talk, let's simple. Here, I am the user, I am authenticated one, okay? And this one is attacker. Now, how this attacker is going to bypass, how this attacker is going to use this identity of this user and is going to fool that user to again to access this website. So this is a simple process, basically, how this CSRF work. So CSRF stand for cross-site request forgery. Okay, means attacker is doing some trick or some way by which he takes the help of authenticated user to do some unwanted task. Means this one is authenticated user, okay, but attacker want to use this user functionalities or it's using his trust to invade, to do some attack on any browser or any application. Then how it is being done, that is to be done, that need to be understand. The first and the foremost thing is that the victims, this is a victim basically, because we are as a user, this is the attacker, this is a victim. So basically what happened, the victim logs to the user session. It log into any website, any web page, maybe a bank website, on any website, okay? And you know, most of the website we have a session cookies, and to maintain the authenticated session, they are being authenticated because they know you are using those things, so you authenticated, they are not asking you each and every time for the authentication. Now what happened, this attacker will do the social engineering. How? He's going to send some spam email, he's going to do some phishing attack, sending some fake message, some chat message, and once this person is going to click on that message, what would happen? He's going to give the control. Now what happened, that malicious website or that website which contains some malicious code which is being sent by this attacker today, it forces this victim browser, because he's using some browser which is already being authenticated by that application by default because of the cookies. So by default, this this particular person is doing some assault on this one using some phishing or some other way, then whenever this, what they want to do, they want to use this access, the access that user has with the browser, to use that access to do some attack. Now what happened? It forces the victim browser to send the HTTP request to a legitimate application. Basically what happened, he's going to open or click on the link which is being sent by him. What happened? The hidden code is there. We know there is a malicious code, maybe a virus, Trojan horse, whatever it could be. So their hidden code or the hidden code which is there inside that one, it leads the victim browser. By default, it activates the browser to send a request from his side to the particular web server, that is HTTP server. Now what happened? These servers know that this is a trusted user because they have the session cookies and they have the authentication also. So they will consider as what? Same origin policy. They know that this is from this origin, it is already authenticated, so it will allow that one. And once it is being allowed, what happened? This attacker is going to compromise the whole system. They will change the state of action. They're going to execute some malicious attacks or any want to take some data out of it. So basically, this is called SCRF. CSRF, or is called basically CSF stand for what I told you, is basically the cross-site request forgery. Means here the attacker has used a simple way. He's using the identity or the trust of this particular user, what he has already have with this particular web server. So this is one of the misconfiguration or one of the way that how these CSRF attacks has been done. And trust is a major factor. But again, how we need to do it? So credential verifications is very important in order to, I would say, to safeguard this particular kind of attack. Let me show you the presentation from current slide. Yes, now it would be okay. Now it would be okay. Now, another reason, another configuration which we talk about, we know everyone, but we pay less attention is about the validation, input validations. Old configuration, sometimes we put validation, we need to be putting each and everything that the validation checks are not being there. Like let's take a simple example like passwords. There's always a validation checks. Like now everyone is enforcing those validation checks that you have to do alphanumeric character, you have to small letter, big letter, and these all kind of stuff. But if these kind of things are not being there, so again it leads to some misconfigurations. Okay, so misconfigurations basically comes from what means there is issues with the data, with the length, or with the other things which are related to the input validations. Means, and what kind of attacks it could be? It could be a SQL attack, it could be a cross-site scripting attack, it could be something like data tampering attack also. It could be denial of service attack, because we know what is DOS, denial of service. When in denial of service, a simple like attacker is making overwhelming the server with some fake requests and doesn't able to understand which one is a legitimate request, which one is a fake one. But what happened? The attacker wants to use or to do excessive sending a large amount of data, or wants to do some excessive large inputs leading to resource exhaustion. They want what? That the resources need to be exhausted. They should be completely, there should not be any resource or any memory or any CPU for the application or for the process to execute. And it leads to what? That they are not processing the original request or the legitimate request. So these kind of things leads to a lot of challenges, a lot of escalations, a lot of unauthorized access. But how it would be if the validations has not been done properly? So validations, checkings, setting the rules for web application firewalls, all these things need to be subsequently addressed if we do not want that there shouldn't be any input validation misconfigurations. Again, when we talk about the database side, there will be a lot of misconfigurations. We talk about the database. We saw that database is okay, but creating a database, if we have improper setup the database, it leads to a lot of vulnerabilities. It leads to a lot of unauthorized access, data breaches, or your system to compromise. Maybe the reason could be false access control list. You have not did the auditing also. You're using default credentials. You are not using encrypted TLS. You are not using security secure HTTPS. But again, there could be some other reason for the database misconfiguration. Means the one and the foremost thing is that over excessive control. Means you are giving access to everyone, full access. There is no patch, there is no update, there is no configuration which has been set up. And for this to be avoided, what you need the principle of least privilege. This is a very important principle which we should understand. We only need to provide the privileges what is being required by the user. We should never give the unnecessary privileges which are not being required anyhow. So that is one of the things which need to be done in order to, I would say, they reduce the database misconfigurations. Same is the case with the cloud storage. Everyone is using cloud. But again, there are a lot of challenges with the cloud storage or with the bucket access flows. So let's there are a lot of issues also being there with the cloud, like in S3, which is called single storage services. A lot of issues are being there with the cloud storage also. But again, how we can avoid this misconfiguration? There are common cloud storage misconfigurations. One could be there, your bucket is public to everyone, so anyone can be the part of that public access. The APIs are not secure at all. There is lack of encryption methods, which I told you in my first slide also. There is no monitoring. There are no proper tools which are used by the organization for the cloud storage. And these all things will lead to what? The misconfiguration in the clouds. It looks very simple one to understand. But once you're going to do it practically, it is a lot of challenges which are still there. Again, is the case with the log. We know that logs are being maintained. But do we think that log integrity is also is very important? Yes, it is very important, because if the logs are not being maintained properly, they are not being recorded properly, that what has been changed, at what time it has been changed, then definitely it leads to blind spots. A blind spot is something, I would say a blind spot is something what means that gives a any attacker a leverage that they can use, they can flourish, they can use those data or those events for their own use, and they will never to be I would say to be recorded. Means they will hide their identity, they will never comes into the front stage. Just like APT, advanced persistent threat. APTs are the most devastating attacks where the attacker identity is not being concealed to anyone. So there are a lot of things which could be there in case of log integrity also. So how it could be done? What are the best ways by which we can maintain the log integrity, and by which we can ensure there should not be any misconfiguration or there are no any blind spots for the attacker to work upon? And one of the foremost thing would be that we must use immutable logs, the logs which cannot be edited. I think you can use hash, just like in blockchain, we use a hash. So this could be one of the way. We can go with RBAC, that is role-based access control. We can use SIEM also, because when we talk about cybersecurity, SOC and SIEM are the two more important things what everyone is talking about. That is security operations centers, and SIEM is security information and event management. So means anything which is being done on your network, everything is being managed centrally. Every simple single step is being monitored very effectively with the help of some platforms. So there are a lot of SOC and SIEM platform by every organization, maybe your Cisco, maybe there is your CrowdStrike, which is a pointer in cybersecurity. There is a Palo Alto, there will be Checkpoint. A lot of organizations, they are doing SOC and SIEM services, providing the services. But again, this is very important, which is being there. And definitely the time skewness issue is there. The time synchronization is to be enforced. We have to use NTP protocol, network time protocol, so that they are able to manage the time that when the action has been executed, both the client and the server side. So a lot of things need to be done in order to maintain the logs integrity and reducing these configurations. Again, when we talk about the other thing, which is about the admin interface security. Okay. Again, whenever we want to upload anything, we want that the admin interface security simply means there should be proper authentication, there should be proper, I would say, authorization, and only the authorized user will be able to access the data. Okay, like there should be proper rules which are being defined. The external access need to be access to be very limited. Whosoever has a right, they can access. There should not be any missing gateways, I would say. There should be a single sign on critical console is there. But if they are not enforced VPN, then again would be a challenge. There should not be use of any unprotected APIs. Default path should not be there. There should not be any default path or default ways by which there is always a possibility for the attacker to be the part of your system. There should not be any virtual gateways. No authentication. Authentication should be there for the APIs. So these are the ways by which you can control those things to a larger extent. Now, this is another challenge which will be there is called web shells also. Now, what is basically web shell? Like as an attacker, what they want to do they want to execute some assault, and they want to upload some file on the server. Okay, some malicious file which can be executed on the server or on the client browser, and which can lead to so many consequences later on. Maybe RCE means remote code execution, means they can keep a full access control on that. Just like RDP also, they can make a full control of that particular machine by sitting in some other place also, maybe deploying some SSX or deploying some DOS attacks out there. So it could be there through these web shells also, because how they have been done, it is because of these scripting, because of the client side or server side scripts, and which can be utilized by the attacker to deploy those malicious codes on the server side. So these are the things which can be contained, which can be considered, which could be, I would say, tackled to larger extent, because you don't know that in case of SSS, like cross-site scripting, some malicious code is being embedded into the legitimate file, like maybe HTML or some image file, and they are being executed on another browser. Okay, so no one knows what could be there at the backend. It could be a ransomware, it could be a Trojan, it could be some other thing which is at the backend, which is going to be installed on a system server, on another systems. So there are a lot of things could be there. So how it can be done, how these bombshells or data leaks could be violated, there should be a limit on the uploads, what to be uploaded, and some other strict policies need to be enforced. Again, another common challenge with the configuration is the network and the firewall misconfigurations. We know that firewall is there. We always know the Windows firewall is there. But how many of know that there are a lot of potential issues with the firewalls also? A lot of issues are there. One of the issues is the any route, means you can access the entry exit anytime, means any kind of traffic can be permitted between any source and destination. Their default settings are there. No such settings are there. Default password, default credentials, outdated rules are there, outdated policies are there. There is no proper documentation or the change of the management, means any auditing or the troubleshooting is being done. One of the common issue is with the open end ports. If the task is completed, it's better to close that port. Sometimes what happens? We simply close down the browser. We simply close down the Gmail. Still, the port is open. Na? So still, we are giving the path for someone to enter to our network also. So these are the things which are very important. Maybe the egress control, maybe the access point, and other concerns. But again, these are the issues with this your firewalls also. Again, there are cloud misconfigurations also. We are talking about cloud, IaaS, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, but there are a lot of challenges which are also lying with the cloud services also. One of the major challenge we talk about is the public cloud also. Common issues are same, means we are giving excessive control. Anyone can access the data to large extent. We have keep the buckets publicly. Default settings we are using. These all things leads to so many configurations, misconfigurations on your cloud premises, on your cloud services. Same is the case with the containers and Kubernetes. We know we're using containers, Kubernetes, that we can deploy application anywhere. There is no need of any infrastructure, any specific infrastructure, and everything would be there in one complete package. That is the container. And Kubernetes is managing the multiple containers. Okay. But again, we are knowing that what are the misconfigurations are there? When we talk about the containers and the Kubernetes, there are a lot of misconfigurations are there. How we don't know how they are being maintained. Okay, there is no such RBCC control. It could be an issue with the insecure container images. Whatever the images we are using for the container, they could be vulnerable. Or someone is running at a root level. So there will be a challenge. There is no resource limit that we can use the CPU and the memory at any time, at any level, without any limit. That is again a vulnerability. That is again a misconfiguration. So policies also, no network policies. Yes, it is mentioned over there. There is no such policies. Unnecessary communication between the different devices and external network is there. Weak RBC. So these are the things which again leads to misconfigurations when we talk about any applications which using containers and Kubernetes. CI/CD exposure. We talk about continuous integration, continuous delivery or continuous development, which is the base of DevOps, development and operations. But again, that leads to so much vulnerabilities and which cannot be managed properly. Which leads to weak access point, which leads to third-party dependencies. It leads to I would say the logs which are not being properly managed. So a lot of attacks could be chain attacks. It could be a breach in the process of pipelining, because we talk about CI/CD. The main is the pipelining, how the integration and the development is being done in a collective manner. If that pipelining is being not managed properly, it is being compromised, the whole process is going to be sad. But how we can do it? How the things can be managed? So for that, you need a third-party dependencies. You must have adequate access control. You must use secret keys, SSH keys. You must use strict APIs. So all these things need to be done in order to manage those things. Again, is the case we talk about third-party SaaS configuration risk. A lot of challenges are there with the third-party configurations in the cloud network, because we talk about the cloud network, and normally we talk about public and the private cloud or protected cloud. But again, the SaaS configurations also leads to some misconfigurations or data breaches. One of the major issue would be what the data breach. Anyone can gain access to sensitive information which is stored on a SaaS platform. Okay. Another what of the issue is the compliance, which is very, very important. Now, let me tell you a very simple application. SaaS applications are not a, if whether we know that those applications are able to hold my sensitive data, whether they are following the rules like GDPR or HIPAA Act. If my health data is there on the cloud, my personal health records are there on the cloud, whether they are protected or not, whether they are following those GDPR, that is general data protection laws, whether if I'm using the other laws like PCI DSS, which is used for payment gateways. So all these things are very, very important when we talk about these SaaS configuration risk or the other risk which are being there, which where the role of cloud comes into play. Okay, there is an issue with the overprivileged open authentication apps like maybe single sign in. Okay, like that nowadays we use a single sign in. I am accessing my Gmail, Facebook, LinkedIn from only through single sign in through my Gmail. Through Facebook, I can access my Twitter and other accounts also. But do we know that what could be the misconfiguration could be there? What could be the possible challenges it could be there with this one? So, but this one is my second last slide. So basically, when we talk about the configuration management and drift, it is also very important that we need to understand. So configuration management is basically how we can manage systematically and controlling all the things. If any change in my infrastructure network can easily manage, but drift is something different. Configuration drift is something means we are not working what we're supposed to do. We are working in a different manner from the baseline configuration. And if it is so, we need to work upon that the system, the application need to work in a similar manner what they tend to be. So that is to be done. There should be a configuration drift. It should not be managed properly. If this has to be managed properly. And what are the causes for this configuration drift? It could be inadequate documentation. It could be a proper communication between the teams. Changes is being done by someone else, which have, and this reason could be the unauthorized access, maybe the overprivileged policies which has been given. So how we can manage these configuration drift? One of the best example we can use infrastructure as a code, IAC. And one of the best example I can talk about right now is if I talk about the cloud network, I will using Terraform, because Terraform is used for doing virtualization, using VM migration, virtual VM machine migration. So that could be one of the way by which it could be done. If you want to, another thing which we can do is that we can use some automation detection, means we can use some tools which can do automatic configuration management. They can find out the loopholes, basically like Ansible, Puppet. You might know those tools, might be knowing those tools which are used in DevOps. So they are used for automatic configurations also. So basically, these all things are very much required while we talk about this configuration, but not the least, when we talk about detecting the misconfiguration, there are so many ways, either using Terraforms or using Kubernetes, or we want to use some scanners, TLS, headers, everything comes into play. But first and the foremost thing is that we need to reduce the attack surface. If we have more attack surface, we are giving more ground for the attackers to play with us. But if my attack surface is less, they have least chances to get into my system, into my application, to compromise my applications. And this is the one thing that we need to look forward. So basically, when we talk about this configurations, we need to prioritize. the configurations. We need to know what is being best, which is not being best for us, how to prioritize the things, what process need to be deployed, what plan has to be made, how to validate, how to test the things before they are coming into the applications. So this is very important. This was my last slide, but this is very, very important. Need to understand that how these misconfigurations are there. So misconfigurations are not only with the web application, it is with the cloud, with the Kubernetes, with the containers, wherever you are on the internet, wherever the applications are being deployed, everything is, I would say, under risk. But if they are not being configured properly, if the applications are not being configured properly, they give a chance, they give a ground, they give a attack surface for the attackers to play with you. So with this, I want to end up this presentation. I hope that I have been able to complete this presentation well in time. Vishu ma'am, any other concern?
Yes,
Anyone?
sir.
Please.
Thank you so much, sir. Any of the participant, if you have any query, you can ask, please.
I was not able to demonstrate one more demonstration. There were two demos.
No issues, sir. We can continue in tomorrow's session also.
Sure.
Our both of the session today were delivered very well. Thank you so much, Pushpendra sir. Thank you so much, Deepak sir. You have explained many of the concepts in a very clear manner, and I hope all the participants got the things also. If any of the participant having any concern, then please may share. Feedback and attendance is also, a link is also shared in the chat box. You may please check it.
So thank you everyone to be the part of to have this particular presentation. I might have told something but very technical terms, which I know that most of you might be knowing or most of you know might not be knowing. But this is the basic, the crux. Like when we talk about the misconfiguration, is not about to get each and everything at one place, but we should know something that what we are working in our daily life. Like if you're using web applications, we're using Dockers, we are using your cloud services. So we should know that what are the possible breaches could be there, what are the possible misconfigurations which we always look, which we, I would say, which we not look after, which we overrule those the things most of the time, which could be a potential sport, potential help for the attackers to compromise your resources, your application in the times to come. Thank you so much, Vishu ma'am and everyone for this particular session. Thank you so much. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I hope everyone has filled the session, feedback and attendance. Any of the participant having any issue, please let me know. I'm going to end the for all.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello, ma'am. How will be our assessment will be taken? Could you please?
Sir, assessment will be tomorrow. Tomorrow we
ma'am.
have 3 sessions.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes,
Like
tomorrow
Google form or on ATAL portal. Could you
ATAL
clarify?
portal. It will be on the ATAL portal, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Sure.